Hello, everybody. This is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today, we're going to talk about how to admonish the sinner without being judgmental. Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, sicut in principio et nunc et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen. All right, so a couple of things. We know one of the works of mercy is admonishing the sinner, and kind of concomitant with that would be informing the ignorant, because sometimes the two go hand in hand. So we are expected to admonish the sinner. You see this mentioned by Christ in the Gospels, and you also see it mentioned in the epistles. Paul talks about it quite a bit, how we need to admonish the sinner and get anybody who's bringing scandal to the church out of the church. So we're supposed to, James in his epistle talks about the same thing too. So we know we are expected as Christians to do this. But we also have to counter that with what Christ says about being judgmental. He talks about this in the Gospels for certain, about how can you focus on the speck in someone else's eye when you have a log in your own eye. But he too exhorts us to be strong about when we see sinful things. Think about when he's at the temple and he flips the tables over, right? He gets angry, and other occasions. But as a whole, Christ is not judgmental much in the Gospels. His message is more about mercy and compassion, and of course he does attack the Pharisees and their hypocrisy. But when it comes to sinners like the woman at the well or the woman committing adultery or these things, he tells them, like, stop doing this and sin no more. But he's not like, you better not do this is wrong, da 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 da. He's very kind and kind of gracious in how he admonishes the sinner. So you have these two things that are kind of at force. We need to admonish the sinner, but we need not to be judgmental. So how do we kind of parse through this? Well, first of all, I've mentioned, we have a video here. There's a criteria for admonishing the sinner. It's got to be grave matter. It's got to be something that they would listen to you, and you'd be the best person to deliver this message. And this kind of criteria has been played up by different theologians throughout the last few hundred years. And so you have to kind of apply that to admonishing the sinner. If we were admonishing the sinner all day, I mean, we wouldn't pretty much be doing anything, because all of us know people who are not following a good, virtuous life, including myself and vast stretches of my life. So look at the people who maybe aren't going to church, or have lapsed, or fornicating, or cohabiting, or receiving the Eucharist and not in a state of grace, or whatever it is, are vehemently supportive of abortion. And then you got to think, okay, would they listen to me? First of all, is it a grave matter? And all the ones I mentioned are pretty grave matter. Am I the best person to deliver that message, or would they listen to me? 90% of the time you're not, and I'm not. So what's the best way to talk about things and help somebody maybe correct their course without being judgmental? Well, what's really the definition of being judgmental? Being judgmental is looking down at others with disdain, thinking that you're better. That's being judgmental. So the way I would do it, and look, I have been judgmental in the past, don't get me wrong, I've made several mistakes regarding this, but I found out that I kind of think, or I figured out the best way to kind of handle this is this. Let's say you have a sibling who's cohabiting. Probably the best thing to do is not, oh, you shouldn't cohabit, it's a grave mortal sin, you're objectifying your girlfriend, what does it say about her, you're going to go to hell. Most of the time when you were approached this way in the past, what happens with you? You get defensive, you get angry, and when you get defensive, you're like the mama bear in the corner, you're going to lash out. And kind of like the listening part of you, the reasoning part of you just shuts down because you're being attacked and no one likes to be attacked. So I think, and plus, the person that you're talking to might know your past and be like, bro, you were doing all these things. Who are you? And then, like I mentioned in the episode, the number one way to talk to atheists, then you're kind of making all Christians look bad. Because, like, who do you think you are, Miss Sanctimony? So that's a very bad road. So I would do this way. I would say something like, look, the church teaches this. And yes, I've done many of these mistakes, But this is what the church teaches out of its wisdom. And let me explain to you why the church teaches this. So kind of explain what the church teaching, defend the church teaching if you understand the church teaching, without attacking them. I think that's the key. Just don't attack them, because they're just going to shut down. So the best thing, and certainly don't, when you're talking to them, don't be like, I've never done this, or da-da-da-da. No, because you're coming off hypocritical. Just be like, look, I understand where you're coming from. Always listen to their story as to why they believe something. And instead of saying cohabiting is wrong, fornication is wrong, listen as to why they're doing it. Just say, look, if you're not familiar, the church teaches that this is wrong for the following reasons. And look, you don't have to just stick to church reasons. You can stick to psychological reasons, emotional reasons. We know, like using the example of cohabitation, we talk about this in the playlist on Catholic dating, that couples that cohabit have a higher rate of divorce. So, you could bring it up in that regard. Be like, it's just a higher rate of divorce, and it makes sense for these reasons, da-da-da-da-da. But ultimately, at the end, go, look, I'm never going to judge you. You're my friend or sibling. I will always love you. I'll always be in your life. But I do have a responsibility to bring this up, and just drop it and don't bring it up again. The best way to evangelize and the best way to bring somebody back who's sinning is not to rub it in their nose, because Christ is right. We are not perfect. Now, you might be perfect in, let's say, you're not cohabiting, and that person, this example, is cohabiting, but we've all are sinners. So the best way to evangelize is model good behavior, good Catholic behavior, and part of that good Catholic behavior would be not judging others, because nobody wants to be judged upon, and you yourself are fallen, and we've all fallen. So it's treating them with dignity and respect, regardless if it's cohabiting or they have homosexual tendencies or they even support abortion. It's to always treat them with charity and kindness and respect and smile the whole time. But also there's the fine line of, you must defend the faith, and you have to answer any questions that they have. Those are the two prongs that all Christians must do: defend the Christian faith and to answer any questions that they have. But you must do it with charity and smiling. So in closing, don't be judgmental. Don't think that you're better than people. Certainly don't say it. Oh, I would never do that. Because the whole thing is that we maybe win the battle, but you'll definitely lose the war with that person. And also understand that you as a Christian are always unfairly the ambassador for all of Christians. And so how you behave with your sibling, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, best friend, they're looking for a way to kind of like get mad at all Christians because the way you're acting. So you don't want to act in an uncharitable, unkind, judgmental way, but balance that out with what we do need to admonish the sinner if it fits that criteria. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, just continue to pray for that person. Don't even bring up the sin. Just continue to pray for that person, answer any questions that they have, and if they ever attack the Christian argument for fill in the blank, then defend it. But don't ever judge others for sinning, because Christ is very clear on how he feels about being judgmental, and the Catechism is very clear on this as well. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.